Hello there. Olatunji Sobodu is my name, and it's my pleasure to join you once again today on Leadership in 30 Minutes. Leadership in 30 minutes. This we normally have today, 11 a.m. West African time, and we dig deeper into some aspect of leadership or the other. And today, like I mentioned earlier in the week on Leadership Monday, I will be speaking on the subject leading overzealous people. Leading overzealous people. Perhaps you have met some of them before. Overzealous people, they can be pretty interesting. Overzealous people, they exhibit significant energy. They get very excited. Okay. They tend to get ahead of themselves, on one issue or the other. Let's settle the fact, from the onset that it's important to be zealous. It's important to be passionate. You want people who are zealous. You want people who are passionate in your team. All right. Jesus himself was passionate. All right. A time came and he said, the zeal of the Lord has consumed me. He took some very drastic action in support of the pursuit of his mandate, in protection of the interest of the one he served, God in that instance. So it's good to have zeal. It's good to be passionate. Passion is an important attribute that one should have because it helps you in your commitment to your pursuit. It helps you to draw energy, where others are failing, where others are being discouraged. If you are passionate, your passion can sustain you. It can make the difference between the one who falls by the wayside and the one who remains, endures the challenge, confronts the challenge, overcomes it, and goes ahead to be a resounding success. But as with everything, there is a limit. There's a limit. So while zeal is good, what can be troublesome is overzealousness, excessive zeal. Excessive zeal. And that happens to be the case, with some people. It happens to be the case with some people. One of them, I would use a particular person as an example. I have met some of them in the course of my career, but I want to draw, as our custom is, from the Bible. Remember, this is brought to you on the platform of Emet Leadership Academy. Emet is a Hebrew word for truth. And at Emet Leadership Academy, we nurture leaders based on truth. Truth, for the avoidance of doubt, for us, is found in the Word of God. So let's go there to share certain profound truths that you and I need to learn if we must be credible, authentic leaders, effective in our leadership calling. Leading overzealous people. And let me share from one instance. That instance is in Matthew 16, actually. Pardon, the reference that you have is Matthew 16, and it's from verses 20, from verses 21. You can go down to verse 23, Matthew 16, 21 to 23. And the point, what transpired there was Jesus was going with his disciples. He had his followers. He was the leader of that team of 12. And so he was going and he was conveying to them certain very important events that were going to take place. He said, look, I'm going to Jerusalem. At Jerusalem, I'm going to suffer many things. I'm going to be treated in ways that you may find discomforting. I'm going to be exposed to a lot of danger, a lot of sorrow, a lot of ridicule. Okay, but that's how it's going to be. In fact, in the process, I'm going to be killed, but I would rise up on the third day. And that sounded ridiculous. It sounded rather extreme in the ears of some of his people. And then one of them, Peter, the overzealous one, pulled him aside and began to scold him, began to say to him, don't speak like that. I mean, that can happen. God forbid, as we would say, that something like that should happen to you. We can't afford that to happen. I mean, you're a leader. Why should you be looking forward to suffering? Why should you be thinking those negative thoughts? Why should that even occur to you at all? I mean, you are the one that people look up to help them, to save them, to heal them, to show them the way. You are the one sharing great wisdom. You are doing all these great things. How can you be thinking of submitting yourself to suffering to the point that you die? He didn't take cognizance of the fact that he said, yes, I'm going to die, but I'm going to, rise up again on the third day. No. So that's what Peter did. And that was overzealous. Overzealousness in action. Why was it overzealousness in action? Look at what the leader, the master then said to him. The master then said to him, he said, actually get behind me, or if you like, get away from me, Satan. So by saying that to Peter, he felt Peter was not thinking well. Peter was under some kind of influence. Peter wasn't thinking in a manner consistent with the way that he wanted Peter to think. What was that way? And there is great insight there. He said to Peter, he said, look, he said, you are always, you are a danger. One interpretation said, you're a dangerous trap to me. He said, you're a dangerous trap to me. You are seeing things merely. You are seeing things merely from a human point of view, not from God's point of view. What he was basically saying is that your overzealousness is going to get me into trouble. Your overzealousness is going to take me away from my mandate. My mandate is sacred. As a leader, I can't allow your overzealousness to derail me from my mandate. And guess what? If I am derailed from my mandate, it would affect you. It would affect you. So one of the things that you find, the overzealousness of certain followers can derail the leader from his journey. And indeed, the entire team. It was appointed for Jesus that these things were going to happen. All right. He had to suffer. He had to go through that process, and he would die. Yes. And then he will rise again the third day. It was clear about his mandate. He knew exactly what he had come for, what he needed to accomplish. And he knew how beneficial it would be for Peter and his people. And that's why he took it upon himself to tell them about these things, that this is my mandate. This is what you guys are going to, experience. This is what you're going to see. And I'm telling you before it happens, you need to know That's what a leader should do. Give you a clear idea of what your journey with me would look like, so that you are prepared for it, so that you are not taken by surprise, and so that you can live through that experience and also help me to fulfill my mandate, and you also emerge as very credible leaders. Okay? That was it. And that was profound. That mandate was not to be negotiated. And that's why a leader needs to be very sensitive when you have overzealous people in your team. This is what they are capable of doing. They can serve as a dangerous trap to you. In what regard? Because they can derail your mandate. If you subscribe to their sentiment, if you subscribe to their unwillingness to flow with your mandate, it will derail your journey. You will not accomplish your objectives. It will ridicule your entire assignment. It will make your effort a complete waste. Overzealousness on the part of your team members constitutes a trap, a dangerous trap, one that can compromise your entire leadership mandate and make nonsense of your leadership efforts. It can cause you to fail as a leader. Overzealousness. It looks like the guys know what they're saying. It looks like they are, considering your interest. I mean, so it appears. Peter said, no, you can't die. Stop talking about this thing. Stop talking in this manner. How can you be talking about suffering and dying? Forget the idea of even rising from the dead the third day. You shouldn't even die in the first instance. You shouldn't die in the first instance. When in fact, that was a direct affront on the mandate of the leader. And this leader was smart enough. This leader was alert enough to call him to attention. And that's why I said, be firmly committed to your mandate. If the leader didn't know clearly what his mandate was, overzealousness would have derailed him. If he was not firm and committed to the pursuit of the mandate that he understood clearly, overzealousness on the part of his team members would have undermined him. And it happens today, how that some leaders refuse to take on that burden or that responsibility of sacrifice when the going gets tough. And they have overzealous members who are trying to suggest to them shortcuts, who are trying to help them, to prevent them from going through certain things. All right, they call them. They can derail them when in fact they need to call them to order. And right now I remember another point, all right, because it takes a while to deal with people like this. So what do? You quickly call them to order. You quickly call them to order. And Jesus was not abusive. You are not supposed to abuse them. You're supposed to call them to order, to help them to realize the sanctity of your mandate, and to help them to focus on supporting you to achieve your mandate. That's what the leader does in situations like that. That's what the leader does in situations like that. All right, it may appear that you are tough, or aggressive. Some followers may not even like it. They may regard even the treatment that Jesus gave as abusive. but it's not abusive. It wasn't degrading. There's a time that a leader needs to be firm, and Jesus was firm. When you're dealing with overzealous people who will typically serve as a dangerous trap to compromise your leadership, your mandate, you need to respond firmly when they make this kind of moves that threatens your mandate. You need to respond firmly, decisively, instantaneous or spontaneously. You don't wait, all right, before they begin to influence other members, other people, and they create dysfunction within the team. That's why Jesus responded in this manner. That's why he responded in this manner. You would recall, and all the instances I'm going to talk about today, they are by the same Peter. Peter was a pretty zealous guy, and I would say something about them. All right, the idea isn't to hate them. The idea isn't to disregard them. The idea isn't even to discourage them. All right, the idea is to get them to focus on the substance of your mandate and therefore their journey with you as a leader. All right, so that the mandate is preserved, everybody is focused, everybody is prepared. They are prepared to go through that journey with you, because through that journey, they will be prepared to succeed you effectively as bona fide leaders themselves. You would recall sometime came, at a later date, as part of what Jesus said was going to happen. When Judas betrayed him and he came with soldiers to arrest him, it was the same Peter who was spontaneous in his reaction. Before you knew it, he drew out his sword, he cut the ear of one of the guys who came to arrest Jesus. And what did Jesus do? Immediately, Jesus scolded him, said, "Stop that. You think I can defend myself? I can defend myself. I didn't need you to defend myself. This situation is a situation that I've always known I'm going to go through. This situation, I have always known it was going to take place. And I've been prepared for it. In fact, if you call to remembrance the things that I have told you in the past, you would know that these situations like this were bound to happen." And he said it here. I'm going to be arrested. I'm going to be killed. Yet, when that time happened, in spite of the fact that he has even scolded him or called him, to order here, look at what Peter still did, out of the same overzealousness. And thank God that his master had the power to repair the damage that he did, because he then took the ears of that guy and put it back and said, "All right, I am the one you guys came to look for. So let's do it. I'm here for you." All right. That was another instance. Instantly, he called Peter to order, scolded him. He told him this was bound to happen. And you are not the one who is to defend me. This is part of the whole process that we all have to go through. I have to go through it. You have to observe it at the very least. But you learn from it. And it's part of what develops you and develops the leadership capabilities in you. And that's why after Jesus had gone, Peter and his group were able to do the same things. So much so that at times when they came face to face with opposition, with resistance, with violence, they were not afraid. In fact, in some cases, they were excited. They were excited because they knew, we're supposed to go through it. All right. And we're happy to go through it in defense of the pursuit of our mandate. At that time, their mandate as leaders. So this is how, it plays out. This is how it plays out. Let me give another example. Another example you will find, and we can learn something very important also from that, is in John 13. And you can look at verses 4 to 14. And in this instance, what happened was that Jesus basically, was trying to teach his people something. And he said to them, he was trying to, he took a towel, took a basin and water and was trying, to wash their feet, to wash the feet of all the 12 guys who followed him. And Peter said, when he came to the turn of Peter, the same Peter, the same Peter, he said, sir, I can't allow you to wash my feet. It won't happen. It won't happen. It's just, how could you, the one that everybody has acknowledged as a savior, the one who has been leading us, the one who has been doing these great things, how could you wash my feet? I don't know how others, my colleagues, allowed you to wash their feet, but as for me, no, sir, I am not going to allow you to wash my feet. And again, this was like an affront. He didn't understand why Jesus was doing what he was doing. Just like he didn't quite understand, in fullness, what Jesus had tried to do when he was telling them he was going to suffer and all of that. So in this case, they said, you won't wash my feet. And then Jesus responded promptly as well and said to him, if I don't wash your feet, then you won't have any part of me. You won't be a part of me. You won't be able to lay claim, all right, to being one of mine. In fact, we can stretch that to mean you can't be one of my successors if you don't allow me to wash your feet. If you don't allow me. So when he said that to Peter, his understanding opened, and then he swung to the other extreme in his overzealous disposition and said, okay, if it's that serious, then you won't wash just my feet. You're going to wash me entirely. Can you imagine? And then the master called his attention again, said, well, you need to understand that you've already had your bath. What I'm talking about is not, you haven't really got the substance of it. It's not about trying to make you clean physically. I am trying to convey a message to you. This is very strategic and you need to understand it. Okay? He said, everyone who has already had their bath doesn't need to wash again except to wash the feet. Except to wash the feet. And that's when, he surrendered, as it were. And, Jesus then said to him, he said, okay, let me tell you guys, you may not have understood what I have done, but this is the point. What I'm saying to you is that I have washed your feet. Now you ought to wash one another's feet. All right. He was telling them that leadership is about service. Leadership is about service. Leadership is about service. And you must be willing to serve. You must be willing to bring yourself to the level where you are able to service the needs of others, even if it makes you look like, you are a maid or something like that. A very instructive and very important point. I hope to speak more deeply on that, at some other time, but just to show you overzealousness once again. But there is another very important thing that we need to mind when you are dealing with overzealous people. We've talked about the need for you that recognize them as a dangerous trap that can compromise your mandate. that can render your leadership efforts useless. Okay, and you need to call them to order. You need to take advantage of their zeal to teach them. That's what Jesus did. In each of the instances, he didn't just shout them down. He didn't, his intention wasn't, to bring them down or make them lose their self-esteem. He took the opportunity to teach them, to let them understand what they were missing. In the first instance, he told Peter, he said, you are mindful only of the things, of the world. There are spiritual things. There are more important messages in what I'm telling you that you need to pay attention to. Don't just get carried away by what you see. All right. You need to operate at a higher level. You need to, seek this kinds of understanding. So he used that opportunity to teach. The same thing he did. When you look at when he caught the ears of that guy, he told them, no, put your sword back. I can sort myself out. This is something that doesn't concern you, it concerns me. I have to face this issue myself, and it's not for you to deal with. In the third instance, he also explained to them, if I don't wash you, you have no part with me. If I don't wash you, you have no part with me. And then Peter says, okay, so you have to wash every part of me. He said, no. I don't need to wash every part of you because you've already had your bath. And that's not the significance of what I'm doing. The significance of what I'm doing is that I only need to wash your feet. And that is telling you about the importance of bringing yourself, humbling yourself, to serve others, and especially your colleagues as a leader. That's the point that I'm making to you. So you also use those opportunities, the overzealousness, the circumstances, you use them as teachable moments to further build your followers into credible leaders. So how do you lead overzealous people? You can see that there are people who are excited, who have a lot of energy, who are not against their leader, all right, who actually are overtly committed to the pursuit of the interests of their leader. They want to satisfy their leader, but they lack sufficient understanding. And so at times, they tend to get ahead of themselves. All right. And the leader must be alert, must be sensitive, because as much as they have a good and sincere heart that backs up their actions, they turn out to be a danger to the mandate of the leader and to their own ability to emerge as leaders following on the journey with their leader. All right, so as it were, their overzealousness can affect their journey and also affect them. It can make nonsense out of their walk with their leader. And so it's in their best interest that the leader calls them to action. But in doing that, you don't abuse them. In doing that, you don't want to kill their zeal. Like I said, zeal is important. And one reason, and I should mention here why it's important, is that in each of the instances where Peter reacted in that manner, he helped his fellow followers, his colleagues. How, you would ask? Because those were opportunities through which they learned what they didn't know before. So each time he acted like that, and Jesus reacted and he taught them, his colleagues were beneficiaries. If he hadn't acted like that, they wouldn't have learned. Jesus may not have had to speak on those particular issues, the way he tried to explain things. So, yes, they may be overzealous, but they bring a lot of value to the table. What the leader does is to moderate that disposition, and that you do through, teaching, perhaps more than any other thing, and managing them from the heart, and not discouraging them. Ensure that you don't discourage them, because being overzealous is not a sin, by the way. It's not that such negative, attitude is not something that they're trying to do to undermine the leader or the team. It's just that, they have a lot of energy and they can get ahead of themselves time and again, and so the leader needs to help them to operate within the confines of what you may regard as healthy dose of zeal, a healthy dose of zeal, or a healthy dose of passion. So that's it. That's where I'd like to stop today. Don't forget that overzealous people are not negative people. They're not people for you to fear. They're not people that you should get rid of from your team. No, Jesus didn't do that. We are not supposed to do that. But there are people who can be of great value to your team. They can, through their actions, help others to learn and to grow, give you an opportunity to throw more light into what they do not understand, and help you, to make their zeal more healthy, and not to kill their zeal. Don't kill their zeal. That way, you may discover that such people like Peter even end up as the foremost candidates for succession, for the leader. And that's how it turned out in the case of Peter. So they have a lot of prospects. They have a lot of prospects for those who know how to manage them. If you don't manage them well, you can create a lot of problems. You can discourage them, all right, and you can destroy them, all right, because when somebody's trying to do good and is sincere in his or her heart, is after the protection of the interests of the leader and perhaps the entire team. And then you deal with the person as though the person were a traitor, or as though the person were not knowledgeable or an illiterate, or the person is a troublemaker, or the person is just, someone who wants just to promote himself or herself. You end up discouraging people like that, and you may in fact destroy them. Okay. And those who would have been very strong leaders, credible leaders who would have gone ahead to do great things, you can compromise all of that when you don't know how to manage overzealous people. So I hope you've benefited from that. I hope you've learned from that. If you have, please, and you have not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel and check out our other programs. I want to recommend them to you. Profit from Parables is one of those flagship programs. Get on it, and you will have access to a lot more of the kind of wisdom and insights that we share here, and counsel that can change your trajectory in life. Okay? Share the link as well. Let others benefit from it. And they can watch previous videos. Let's be our brother's keepers. Let's help to develop leadership capacity and competence in others. The world is in dire need of authentic leaders, of credible leadership, of strong leadership, of value-adding leadership. And you and I can contribute to that through programs like this, by sharing the link, by inviting others. Please help to do that. And don't forget, please put your comments in there. We'd love to hear from you. If there's any area you want me to speak about, if there is a different perspective that you have, or in case you disagree with the submission that I have made, in any of these sessions, please go ahead and express them. We all, iron sharpens iron, and we believe that when you give those kinds of comments, we will be better off. All right. Once again, thank you very much. Thanks for joining this evening. This morning, or indeed any time that you have the opportunity to listen, and God bless you. Bye-bye.